We are a local NGO. We actually have NGO status. And our role is really to be the trustee or the custodian of the 236,000 acres that were bought by the Nature Conservancy to put in trust for the people and government of Belize.
The area known as the Belize Maya Forest is home to over 200 species of trees, some 400 species of birds, various species of monkeys and wildcats in the northwestern Belize. The Belize Maya Forest is engaging 9 community stakeholders to participate in developing a management plan.
So, for example, in terms of our southern borders, we have communities like Yalbac Village, La Gracia, Buena Vista, Spanish Lookout. And on the northern side, because the Belize Maya Forest is a key area that recharges the Rio Hondo, so most of the Belize Maya Forest is located in the Rio Hondo watershed. We also chose some of our beneficiary communities, which are Blue Creek and San Felipe, to be part of the process.
The Nature Conservancy purchased these lands using their own financing and the funds of partners they brought on board. The government of Belize has signed an agreement with the TNC for the Belize Maya Forest. The agreement includes discount on land taxes and duties and the rights to carbon credits.
This process was a process of negotiation. Originally with the previous government, they were willing to concede the full land tax waiver, and with this government, we had to renegotiate for a discounted rate rather than a full tax waiver. The other portion of that agreement primarily deals with the carbon rights, and basically in that agreement, it is stated that basically the government is granting those carbon rights to the Belize Maya Forest Trust to be able to both repay some of the acquisition costs as well as create some sort of, if you want to call it, well, it's an endowment. But if you want to call it, it's a fund that basically can be used for long-term management.
Legislation to this end was passed in the National Assembly on Friday. Now, TNC's acquisition of the 236 acres of land and the establishment of the Belize Maya Forest Trust is not to be confused with the funding expected to be provided to the government of Belize under the Conservancy's Blue Bond for Ocean Conservation Program. This is a second undertaking meant to restructure the government's so-called $550 million super bond.
Very different, so I want to make that distinction because I have seen that in the news there has been some confusion, and I think it's partly because the Nature Conservancy is involved in both sort of agreements or initiatives.
TNC is there through their efforts, and with Credit Suisse we are working on the financing of this deal.
So, what is a blue bond and how does it work? In short, the Nature Conservancy agrees to buy over a country's sovereign debt. That country, in turn, must agree to protect at least 30% of its marine areas. Blue bonds are hailed as an audacious plan to save the world's oceans.
It's going to be more marine conservation, and it is going to be conservation beyond the reef into our exclusive economic zone.
In the case of Belize, GOB would pay 55 cents on the dollar to bondholders through funding from TNC, which translates into 45% in savings on the super bond. GOB would then repay TNC, the new bondholders, the blue bondholders, at a lower interest rate and over a longer period. But in order to finalize such an offer, the government needs 75% buy-in from the bondholders.
We hope and expect that we could reach a 75% threshold, so that then by doing that, then we could get rid of the entire super bond and then come up with what we call now the blue bonds that will be moving it from that once we do the financing and everything. But I just want to reiterate that this is the best deal that we can offer to the bondholders. It was a long process, but we are very excited about the prospects of finally putting the end of this super bond saga.
If the government is to end the saga of the super bond, it must reach the 75% buy-in threshold by November 19th, which ironically is celebrated as Settlement Day in Belize.
I can tell you as a person involved in conservation that it's a great win for Belize, because it's a great benefit for Belizeans to know that we can be relieved of this burden, right? Of the super bond, or at least a good portion of it. And on top of that, there's gonna be an added benefit in that the marine ecosystems and the ocean, right? In those blue bonds, if it can all be pulled off, because for the average people, it means that there's less money that your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and the children of your great-grandchildren have to pay towards debt.
Reporting for News 5, I am Paul Lopez.